All right. So this morning there was a conversation that brought up AI. So I'm very excited to have this conversation, which is the marketer experience with AI. And on our panel, we've got Lad Martin, head of global marketing, gaming and incubation, interested about that, personal systems at HP, and Blake Bassett, senior director of product here at Tubi. And moderating the panel is Mary Gray, our Vice President of Sales at West Coast at Influential. Thank you, and take it away.
Thank you so much. You did my job for me. I don't have to introduce these lovely men. But I did want to say a little bit about Lad's career. He spent the last, well, still currently there.
Just me? You're going to do him too, right?
I'm not done yet. Only you, Lad. But Lad's led global marketing at HP for the last 6 years in various divisions. He's previously led the worldwide PepsiCo account during his 10 years at BBDO, and prior to that, spent over 7 years at Goodby Silverstein and Partners. So pretty storied career. We're excited to have you here. We're also excited to have Blake here. He's been at Tubi for the past 2.5 years in product, and he previously worked in product management at Microsoft and Facebook. And over the course of his career, he spent several years as a military intelligence officer and also worked at the U.S. Department of Defense. And little plug about Influential, we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary, and in the influencer marketing space, we're the leader in the space by revenue, and we're trusted by over the top 60% of the top 500 brands in influencer marketing who are dabbling in influencer marketing today. And we recently partnered with Forbes on their top 2023 creators list using our proprietary data within our platform in our scoring system, which is also fueled by AI. So I'm excited to be talking today about AI with these gentlemen. And so let's get started. So we know that AI has been at the forefront of innovation and growth in 2023 within the tech industry. I'm curious to hear which AI tools you are leveraging the most to help you take your brand marketing or products to the next level. Who would like to get started?
Oh, me? First of all, thanks for having us on the hardest topic possible. Has changed overnight, literally. Big topic, lots of things to talk about there from a tool perspective. It's changing by the day, I would say, in terms of what the experience is. Actually, I was at a roundtable here in San Francisco maybe 6 or 8 weeks ago, and all of the different marketers were using ChatGPT and different tools in so many different ways to create content, posts, to change content marketing. And I feel like in 8 weeks, it's already moved a whole nother journey forward in terms of use of imagery and so forth. Myself, I use it in a couple different ways, even outside of what our teams do. One, I find ChatGPT specifically really useful for research, to be a research assistant. I think there's an important thing to think about how AI tools are helping you as a human and being clear about what's in and what's out of bounds from that perspective. So I write a lot of brand strategy as a part of what I do. I tend to use it as a great way to understand the competitive landscape, what other people are saying. But I think that fundamentally what your brand is about has to come from you, the human, to make it actually different. I think that's the human element. So that's the first answer I would give. That's not everything.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is on. There we go. Hopefully. Okay. So following up with what Lad said, I think, so for context, yesterday I was at the OpenAI Dev Day. And I'll say that everything I thought I knew was possible completely changed with what they released yesterday. And so, many of the use cases that Lad was talking about writing creative, like such great use case for ChatGPT, but we're pretty limited before yesterday because the context only went back to like 2021, right? Well, yesterday, OpenAI announced that now the models are trained up through April 2023, and they now have the capability to pull relevant data directly from Bing to help with research on like real life accurate data. And so the tooling has just improved immensely. As far as how Tubi is using this technology from like a product standpoint is we're really focused on content discovery and solving what we believe or what we call is like the burden of choice. And so with over 100,000 movies and TV shows on the platform, it can be really hard to find something to watch. And there's a lot of psychology behind the cognitive burden and overload when you're trying to find something to watch. Your brain just shuts down. And so a lot of people will leave the service, and when they do decide to watch something, they'll be less satisfied because of like FOMO of things that they've, decided not to watch. And so we're focused on using large language models from OpenAI to better understand our content and our users to match the two, to users to content that want to watch. So an example of a product we recently released is Rabbit AI, which enables people to use prompt-based search queries. So instead of putting in a keyword like horror or Bruce Willis to find movies in those, with Bruce Willis, they could say, hey, it's Halloween, I want to watch something scary. And we're embedding that with these large language models to understand the essence of what they're asking for and then returning back relevant results. And so that's a use case from a product standpoint that we're really excited about.
Awesome. So I'm also curious, because you're dabbling in AI, are there any AI tool sets you've found to be effective in helping manage and lead your team's day-to-day tasks to be more time efficient?
I think that time efficiency is the number one biggest unlock that we're going to have. If you don't have an automation COE in your marketing department, I'd recommend you figuring out how to assign somebody to that. The number one complaint, HP is a big and slow and old organization, and our number one complaint from our people every year is processes and tools and how bad those are. The ability to change that with low code, no code models in process automation now with the advent of AI makes it really easy to actually take core marketing processes and make that simpler. We're using that to reduce the way in which POs are created, the ways proof of execution is done, all of the kind of back office task, I would say, is one thing that no one's talking about as it relates to AI, but is a huge opportunity for us to be have more time. All of us, I think, have too much to do constantly. People are overwhelmed with the amount of things that are required. So the ability to use AI to lighten the workload is probably the number one objective of me as a leader, to make it easier for my people to do their work in total.
Yeah, and then as a product person, one of the things that we're most focused on that takes a lot of time is understanding our audience, understanding our users, what they like, what they dislike. And Tubi has over 70 million monthly active users. And you can imagine that creates a lot of user signal, not just quantitative signal, but qualitative signal through social media channels, through customer support, thousands and thousands of bits of information. And so we've built tooling internally to intake all of that information, and then we'll ask GPT, identify the top 10 things people hate, or the top 10 things people love, or top 10 content requests, or top 10 this or that. And it's able to do that in a fraction of the time that it took humans. And then the other area that we're really focused on is on the content metadata side. So with such a large library, we receive a lot of titles coming in. There's a lot of content metadata, including a title description or summary. And we've integrated ChatGPT within the pipeline to create different variants of content descriptions and to clean the data and to even translate it into different languages. And so we're talking about hundreds of people hours saved. And it's not like these people are now no longer utilized, but now we're able to expand the scope of what they're doing to have a huge impact across different parts of the business. So it's like a superpower in a lot of ways.
I love it. I love that you both are giving us both perspectives from the product and marketing angle. Thank you. I think it's really helpful for the audience to hear both angles. So because you've been dabbling in AI, I'm curious, what are some of the biggest nuisances or challenges in applying AI technology to your brand marketing mix or product suite that you've found so far in this journey?
I think it's how fast it's moving. I mean, I think it's for the fact that the tool sets you should be using today are different than what they were yesterday is so hard. We've done a couple of things. One, we've set up a center of excellence, so people that are just focused on looking at this. It doesn't have to be a lot of people, but people that are kind of involved on an ongoing basis. Obviously, as a big tech company, there are a lot of different groups that are involved in that, but within marketing, we figured out a couple people to have focused on that. And then I think also within your teams, creating an evangelist that can just talk about the things that are happening. There is so much information flow and everybody's overwhelmed. I am personally. So I've got someone on my team that sends, essentially an email every week that says, here's the things that are happening, here's what we're trying, here's what you can try, here's what's in and out. I think just having the information is really beneficial. Also because the biggest challenges are like what's okay and what's not, and is there a safe space to ask those questions? When am I infringing on IP issues? When is this okay? And having some office hours, I would say, would be the third thing that we've done, so that people can come and say, okay, is this a good or a bad use of this? This is a comfortable space to ask a question or to get it wrong, which is super, super important as you kind of help people embrace new things, new technologies. I mean, I think this is the fourth major wave of technology that I've seen since I've been a marketer. And you have to be curious enough. I think all marketers are curious. I think Lauren was saying this when we were on break. It's like the curiosity quotient is something that marketers have in spades, which is awesome. And so your ability to enable that curiosity, I think, is really important within the organization. But you have to set it up in a way so that people don't do things that's going to get your IP out into the world in a way you didn't expect it to, that doesn't infringe on somebody else's, creative or patent rights, and that works within a way in which, no individual or the company is going to get sued for the things that they do.
Yeah, that was wonderfully stated. I mean, I completely agree with all those things. Two points that I'll touch on is, one, feeling comfortable or confident in using it. And OpenAI yesterday announced the release of what I think it's called like trademark shield or something like that. But if you get sued for using creative or content from GPT, they will pay your legal expenses. And so in that way, that's nice to have that protection. But I'll say the other thing that I'm kind of, one of the biggest challenges is we have this, saying when it comes to like data engineering, garbage in, garbage out. And the same is true with a model. And so I think that the most important thing is having people who are really knowledgeable about a space and know how to ask the model how to create things. Like that is a big challenge. And I'll give you an example from yesterday at the OpenAI conference. I was asked, I was at a demo, like this computer vision demo, and they asked the audience, like, someone give me a topic of a children's story. Crickets. And then I'm like, yeah, I've got a 5-year-old. Like, I know what he's interested in. Like, okay, write me a story about Egyptian pharaohs, this character named Kitty Jones who goes on an adventure and finds a hidden treasure, whatever. Everyone was like, what? And then the model generated this wonderful story, but it's like it took someone who had a 5-year-old who understood the space to be able to prompt the machine to do the thing. And so I think that's where like brand marketers here and creatives in general are absolutely indispensable in the creative process, because what you put in, the instructions you provide, will determine the output. And so that's a challenge, is like just teaching people how to explain these things to a model to get the output.
Right,
Because if you
give it
take
enough
someone without
information.
that context, they'll end up misrepresenting your brand, or it just won't feel right, and that can be a huge problem.
Most definitely. Yeah, you have to make sure you fueled it with the right information so it generates what you want to see back. All right, awesome. So this question is for you, Blake. Is the Tubi product team finding new ways to leverage AI technology to help Tubi advertisers reach new audiences?
Yeah, I think that the ad products team, I'm not on the ad products team, but they're exploring it right now, and I think there's some really interesting use cases. So using OpenAI's large language model for embeddings, for instance, being able to embed not only our content, but also like user signal, as well as the advertisements themselves for like better understanding of content, ads, and the user. And then using computer vision, OpenAI has this tool called GPT-V, where it'll basically split out all of the frames of a piece of content and describe every single frame. So with that knowledge, you can imagine a world where, I love Air Jordans, huge Air Jordan fan, but I'm watching a basketball movie and I receive an ad for Air Jordans during like a pivotal moment and frame in that movie. And I can click through to just put them in my cart and buy Air Jordans. So that's what this technology will enable, and I know our ads product team is amazing, and they're on the forefront of thinking of these things. But like Lad said, the space is moving so fast, and so the execution will be key.
Can you just serve me the ad the next morning instead of during the movie? That'd be good.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like my shoe bills will be very high once that comes
They're
to fruition.
customized for you. Yeah, exactly. So Lad, I'm curious, which AI tools are you seeing your product team lean into to help enable the marketing team at HP to move faster with go-to-market ad messaging?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few, we're using Adobe for all of the ways in which we're working on our workflows with Workfront, and that's more of a process tool, but we're using all of the image-based tools that they have, very similar to what you would see on, like with Canva, has amazing products. I know some of those folks are here today, really incredible. I'm actually really impressed with the things that you can do in Canva Brand Studio. I think that everybody that I talk to for some of the startups that I'm advising, as we build a new brand, and just building it there first because it's so easy and seamless to use. And I think that the tools are really incredible from that perspective. And I think that where it goes from there, it just continues to extend, so whether it's images, text, I think the hardest thing for me as a marketer is that we've identified marketing as one of the major areas for efficiency based off of the advent of generative AI. And I think that's pretty consistent actually in the data. It's either like the number one or number two things. And I think as marketers, at first you see that and your first reaction could be like, oh shit, we're gonna like cut our workforce by 40% and they're just gonna go invest everywhere else and we're just gonna take that money and give it to the shareholders. And I think that to help overcome the kind of fear and uncertainty and help people realize that it's actually a superpower for you. And so it's like, I just try to be an evangelist in that case. I've got my mother-in-law using ChatGPT to write emails about the family feud that's going on right now. And that has been a phenomenal unlock, although none of it sounds like her because she does not write that well.
She's on chat.
But it's like, people, until ChatGPT came, it's not like we weren't all using AI. We've been using AI in media for years, et cetera. I'm not saying that we should rest on those laurels, but now that it's kind of bloomed into the public consciousness and it's the biggest thing that everybody's talking about, I just have encouraged all my people on my team to lean into it. And it's hard. People are at different stages of their ability to do that. But I hope as marketers that we find a way to make it our superpower instead of our kryptonite. Is that right? I'm like not that good on Superman.
That's good.
Is kryptonite his power
I'm glad you
or
said
is
superpower?
I don't know. Okay.
So I'm curious, in that regard, are you utilizing or leaning into any AI technology currently to enhance your marketing creative messaging to be more dynamic?
I would say we're using it my own philosophy and within my own team, within our mega corp, is like research and execution, I would say. And I think some of the folks talked about it earlier about the middleware is really where the human comes in. And so like I really find language-based things, because we do a lot of messaging, technical writing, content marketing, and all of that kind of stuff. It's like understanding the landscape up front is really useful to have it from a research perspective. I think that people should try to write within their brand voice. I think that will change with what we heard about yesterday, the ability to train a model to be for your brand, to be within your own private sandbox so that you can ingest your specific data. We'll get better at that. And then really for execution to turn, one well-written piece about a laptop, for example, into many different pieces of execution, I think is possible. But I think that we're trying to maintain the unique human element that exists within the generation, if you will. But on both ends, I think there's a lot of help that makes it a lot easier. So I'd say.
Awesome. So one more question I think we have time for, unless we have time for one more after that. But what advances in AI technology are you most excited about and why? I know Blake is dying to answer this since he was just at the Dev conference yesterday.
Yeah, there are a few. So the first is like low-code tools that enable anyone to build an AI assistant or an application to do a job for you, like things that only engineers with a decade of experience could do. And so a new tool that's being released, or a new functionality of GPT, is called GPTs. And essentially what they are is you can create your own GPT. It's not available to the public yet, but you can create your own GPT and train it to do a task. So for the example of like say you wanted to create a GPT to create advertisements on social media using your brand voice, right? You can give instructions to do that, and then you can now upload the context. So you can say, here's our brand book or our brand guidelines. You can upload like hundreds of pages of context, and then you can tell it how you want it to respond, give it examples of your brand voice, and then it can write it for you using all of that historical knowledge based on your prompts. You can also do things like OpenAI created an example where you could drop in a table of data and you could say, hey, I'm trying to sell this thing and I'm trying to sell it to this audience. Please create me some charts that will help me make this case with some compelling talking points. Done. Like you upload the tabular data, it does it, it visualizes it, outputs it. So like that would take an engineer multiple weeks to create all the functions to tie that together to do it. Now anyone can do it. So that's what I'm really excited about. And then the other thing is just the multimodal applications. So not just natural language, but text to speech. So a new model was just recently released where all OpenAI needs is like 15 seconds of a voice. And it used to take a long time to train like models to take text and make speech, and it sounded like a robot. But now they need 15 seconds of speech. And then the model will use that voice. So you can imagine doing voiceover for ads or different brand campaigns. And then some of the video vision stuff I talked about in the ad space, being able to like describe, the beverage label in a particular frame of a movie, like just incredible advances there. So those are the two things I'm most excited about.
Awesome. What about you, Lad?
I don't know if I'm technical enough to answer this question, but I think what I'm most excited about is that I think that from my limited understanding as a creative marketer, the ability for the software engineers to create and design solutions very easily has exponentially increased from what Blake has said. His roadmap went from like 6 months to a weekend last night. I think what that means to me is that how can I think about all the things that I hate the most about my job and make them go away and give them to a software engineer who's really good at prompting AI to go solve that problem for me so that I can actually focus on the things as a real human and as a creative person that are going to make the biggest impact. And I think that those of us that are able to figure out how to do that will be the ones that are able to win the most for our brands, because actually I think that with how easy it's going to be to create content in a GPT or whatever, it's not that there's going to be a limited amount of content. There's going to be more content than ever, feeding other robots that are also trying to read that for context, but really true strokes of inspiration and creativity are going to be the things that break through more than ever. And so I think as marketers, it's incumbent upon us to find ways to have the time, the space, and the inputs to have that and the bravery to do so. And I hope that we have the time to do that by no longer routing POs.
All right, so we're at the 5-minute mark. I know AI is very, very popular topic, so we do want to open this up to the audience to see if anyone has a question. I see a hand raised in the back, so we'll give the microphone over.
Thank you. Thanks so much for being here. I learned a lot from you guys, made a lot of notes. I just wanted to actually share a comment to the group, which is that because, as you've said, the market is changing on a daily basis. And Blake, actually, you just referenced a ChatGPT-S that was announced yesterday. So this market is changing so quickly. What I have done is I'm subscribing to 2 different newsletters, and I get those newsletters daily, and they're a wrap-up of what's happening in the AI space. And if I wasn't reading those newsletters, I'd feel completely behind. So I just wanted to mention, one of them is called Superhuman, and the other one is written by Shiv Singh, Singh. So check out both of those. I read them daily, and good luck.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the recommendations. Do we have any other questions from the audience for our panel?
Thank you. I'm Narasu from Clorox. As organizations want to get better at AI in marketing, do you think that it's a question of all the sub-function roles building it into their skill set, or will there be new roles around AI?
I think I think there are new roles for sure, because I think that you can bring the some of the technology pieces that were historically outside of the marketing stack closer in, so I would think about like how instead of MarTech or data being, kind of like a segment that can't actually code, you can actually bring a software engineer closer into the process. So maybe it's prompt engineering or something like that, working on core problems within marketing. I also think that if there's one theme or opportunity that's created here, it's about how we can break down some of the silos. So one of the things that we spoke about today a lot was the issue between brand and demand, or growth versus demand or brand marketing, and how we think about that. So if there's an opportunity to create efficiency because workloads can go down, how can more integration happen across the marketing stack and within teams, I think is a big opportunity, as we also try to bridge that gap that I think everybody feels within the way that organizations exist today. So I think there's an opportunity to re-envision the way in which the marketing organization functions when you can take some of the work out and use the robots for that. Blake?
Awesome.
Yeah, I would, as far as new roles, I think one thing that we've done at Tubi that's been helpful is kind of have someone who is responsible for OpenAI integration, or whether it's like Gen AI integration, to help kind of spread this knowledge and these tools throughout the organization, and to train people up on how to use some of this new technology. Because honestly, the best prompt engineers in brand marketing are like the people in this room. It's not like an engineer somewhere. So like teaching people to unlock this superpower, I think, will be very, very important. And with how fast things are moving, I even imagine in like 6 months, 12 months, people will be able to create even more sophisticated like applications to use themselves. And it all just starts with getting your hands on and using the tools and learning about prompt engineering, which is like pretty simple, but you just have to get your hands on the tool.
Awesome. Any more questions from the audience? I know there's a 2 o'clock session, so we don't want to burn the seats up here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
thank
much,
you.
guys. This was great. Really appreciate your time.